Okay, we'll get started. Baltimore City Council Ways and Means Committee, we're here today for legislative oversight, LO 23-0040, coordination, logistics of Artscape. I'm Eric Costello, councilman from the 11th District, chair of the committee, joined to my left by vice chair of the committee, Councilman Robert Stokes, 12th District, and to my right, Council Vice President Sharon Green Middleton, 6th District member of the committee, and to my immediate right is Marguerite Curran, staff to the committee. We've also been joined by representatives from Council President Nick Mosby's office, as well as Mayor Brandon Scott's office. Real quick overview of what we're going to do today. I'm going to give a little bit of background, then we are going to jump to the mayor's office. Then we will, to give an overview of the discussions we've had over the past month, we will then jump to the mayor's office in BOPA to give a brief overview of the programming in the event. It's probably going to run in the 5-minute range. Then we're going to jump over to Department of Transportation to discuss the maintenance of traffic modifications that have occurred over the last month. And then we will go to OEM. Do we have OEM here? Yep. And Ms. King, if at some point, you don't have to now, when we get to you, if you could come up to one of the desks, and then we will get to Baltimore Police Department. So first, I want to thank the mayor's office, specifically Marvin James, chief of staff. We've been in constant communication over the last month as we work to address concerns that have been raised by our partner institutions on the corridor, which include the University of Baltimore, MICA, the Lyric, and the BSO, as well as working with other partners such as the Mount Vernon Belvedere Association, Midtown Community Benefits District, and the Bolton Hill Community Association as we prepare for the first in-person Artscape, I think, in 4 years. That weekend, there are a number of different events occurring. MICA has Parents Weekend, and the Lyric and the BSO have multiple shows, not to mention activity at M&T Stadium with a Ravens game, as well as CFG Arena with concerts. So there's a lot going on, a lot to manage, but again, I want to thank Marvin and specifically Chief Haynes from DOT, who's really done yeoman's work here to help put together a plan that I think is going to meet everyone's needs and ensure that we have a successful weekend. Also want to take a moment to thank specifically Tanya Miller and Tanya Hunick. Tanya is running arts programming in the mayor's office. Todd is the interim CEO at BOPA, who have put in an incredible amount of work over the past few months to help us get to the place where we have a world-class event that's coming up and is really going to showcase the best of Baltimore. So with that, we've also been joined by Councilwoman Odette Ramos, 14th District. With that, Chief of Staff Janes, I'm going to turn it over to you. Actually, one other thing I want to add. So we've been having these weekly meetings with our stakeholders that Marvin and I have been co-convening. I think those have been incredibly productive in terms of understanding what those concerns are from a logistics perspective. We've done our very best to be transparent during these meetings, aggregating each of those concerns that have been raised each week, keeping those in a running document that we're sending out. We've met, I think, 3 times. We have our next Friday meeting this upcoming Friday, and we will continue to meet monthly weekly, through the event. So, Chief of Staff, floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning. My name is Marvin James, and I serve as Chief of Staff to Mayor Brandon Scott. First of all, I want to thank the committee for this opportunity to be able to discuss a cultural event that I believe that we all love, called Artscape. Artscape has served as a cultural beacon in our city pretty much since I was a child, and is incredibly important to the vibrancy of our arts community. When I became Chief of Staff, I made it a personal mandate to institute a culture of collaboration and get it done attitude within Mayor Scott's administration. I truly believe that our city is better served when we are not divided, but working together. On July 21st, along with Chairman Costello, we convened our civic partners, which includes the Maryland Institute College of Art, Baltimore Symphony Orchestra, the University of Baltimore, the Lyric, to discuss operational needs to make sure we are working collaboratively during a great event season. We also convened our city agencies, such as the Department of Transportation, Baltimore Police Department, the Office of Emergency Management, and the Baltimore City Fire Department to make sure that we answer questions in a concrete and resolute manner. In this hearing today, you will hear from Tanya Miller, our Senior Advisor of Office of Arts and Culture for Mayor Brandon Scott, Lindsay Jackson, our Director of External Partnerships for Mayor Brandon Scott, Chief William Haynes, who is our Chief of Traffic for the Department of Transportation, along with Tavon Braxton, our Deputy Director of Department of Transportation, and members from our BPD and OEM. And so we look forward to be able to answering questions from this committee, and thank you again for this opportunity.
Thank you, Chief. With that, I'll turn it over to Ms. Miller. Mr. Yehunik.
Good morning. My name is Tanya Miller Hall. As Chief of Staff James said, I am the Senior Director of Arts and Culture, Senior Advisor of Arts and Culture for the Mayor's Office. I serve as a co-director for the festival. My role specifically as it relates to BOPA is really, I've been focusing on sort of creative direction and sustainable social impact products that we can sort of as investment areas for the Station North District. But I should say that BOPA and I have been working together diligently over these last few months. Despite public perception, the festival is going to be fantastic. We are going to be ready in 6 weeks, and I am super excited about it.
Thank you, Tanya. My name is Todd Uhanik. I am the interim CEO of Baltimore Office of Promotion in the Arts. I've been on the job roughly since June 2nd, and I have to say I am so proud at the collaboration and communication, not only between the Mayor's Office and BOPA, but also between the City Council, and the collaboration has just been amazing. We've made so much progress in the last 8 weeks. It's going to be a wonderful, wonderful weekend. It's going to be the cultural hub of the arts. I know it's going to be a busy weekend, but that's what real cities do. We can throw world-class events with multiple things going on. We have an amazing headliner in Kelly Rollins. We have so many great things. We have an artist market at the old Barnes & Noble bookstore in the Fitzgerald. We have a film festival we have a film festival made up of young student films from JHU, Micah, and Wine Media at the Parkway Theater, which will be open again. We have a B23 arts exhibition of 25 emerging artists and professionals during Artscape. We have a comedy festival. We have a fashion show. I'm just really proud of the excitement. We had over 1,100 applicants to the festival, so the demand is there. People want it, and Artscape's back. Thank you.
Great. Ms. Miller Hall and Mr. Yannick, thank you very much. Chief Haynes, turn it over to you.
Thank you, Councilman. So our goal,
Actually, hang on one second, Chief. Sure. Nina, are we able to bring up the? Oh, I think we need to. Yeah, she's got it up there.
Do you want that one or DOTs first?
Oh, this is the other one. We want the DOT. Yep. Sorry, that's my fault. Chief, take it away. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Costello. So just to preface this, when we originally engaged in this, our goal was to really help to manage traffic around the footprint of the event spaces here that you see here on the screen. Our goal is always collaboration with our partners and collaboration internally really also to really identify all the resources needed to manage something at this scale from a traffic standpoint. You can see that what is shown with the sort of kind of bluish green shading. You can see there to the top of the slide, that is the Fitzgerald parking facility, which is a critical destination. You see the Lyric just to the lower right of that, which is going to have events that weekend as well. And what is hard to see because of the closed captioning there is on the lower left is the Meyerhof, which is where the BSO event is going to be occurring. The orange line you see along Mount Royal Avenue, oh, I'm sorry, thank you. The orange line you see along Mount Royal Avenue is the actual footprint, relatively speaking, of the Artscape event. And so it was really important for us to sort of look at this from a high level to really see sort of geographically where they're located as a starting point to start to talk about some of the potential traffic impacts. So, one critical step once we sort of identified the footprint of all our events is to look at the impacts to the roadways in the area. And so you can see they're indicated by red lines. Those are streets that are proposed to be closed as part of the event. There are other sort of soft closures, but these are the key closures around the event. And the green lines represent corridors that will be open to traffic. You can see that one pink line in the center of the slide there. That is going to be a critical egress. That's Maryland Avenue, which currently is oriented southbound. That is going to be northbound, so it's going to be a contraflow so that we can facilitate egress from the event space. And then you can see a few stars on this slide which indicate proposed rideshare locations. So there are also road closures north of North Avenue. You can see here Charles Street is going to be closed between North and, I believe, 21st Street. And then you could see some of the closures along 20th Street as well to accommodate some of the events that are going to be occurring. You'll also see some pink lines along North Avenue, and those reflect just right lane and parking lane closures to also support the event. So this is a critical talking point, sort of the influence of I-83. You can see because Mount Royal is going to be closed at St. Paul Street to the west, that the access from I-83 to Mount Royal, I believe that's exit 4, will be closed. However, exit 5, which connects you directly to Maryland Avenue as well as Oliver Street, is going to be a primary egress for the Lyric event. And so you can see the traffic flows that are going to be shown there. You can see a left turn off of that ramp, and I'm going to talk about that a little bit more because that is not for through traffic. It's actually to facilitate some pickup and drop-off operations for those with mobility challenges at the Lyric. And I'll talk about that in a slide or two. So one thing I wanted to hint on is when we talk about resources, we're in the process of identifying all the available resources just to try to manage an event of this scale. You can see here this yellow area is potential overflow parking. That is still in flux, but obviously something that the entire team is thinking about and looking at what other accommodations are available in the area. So to speak specifically about some of the facilities, some of the event spaces, we have the Lyric here, and I mentioned a moment ago how traffic coming off of exit 5 off of 83 southbound will access the area, with the Fitzgerald being the primary parking facility for Lyric patrons. But we're also, one of the things that came out of these weekly stakeholders meetings is really listening to the needs of these different event managers and event hosts and identifying what some of the circulation needs are. And one of the things that we heard from the Lyric was that there was a need to be able to drop off patrons either with mobility challenges, small children. There's going to be sort of a children-oriented show that weekend. And so, we've designed a loop, what we affectionately call the loop-de-loop at the Lyric, which is an ability for traffic to come off of I-83 to access a single lane that will be provided for vehicular traffic to go around the Lyric. And then you can follow that baby blue line there, potentially take you back into the Fitzgerald to park, or to take you out to Maryland Avenue to egress from the event space. We still are going to maintain the bike facilities there, as well as pedestrian facilities in the roadway. Our goal is to separate those different modes with some sort of barrier. We're evaluating barrier options right now. And you can sort of see that depicted in both slides. Thank you. So that was it. I'm sorry. You can go to the next slide. So one of the things we wanted to look at a very high level is what are our primary egress points from the Artscape and Lyric kind of event space. Because Mount Royal is closed, there's sort of a landlocking in place. And so we really wanted to focus on, okay, what are the open roadways that could be utilized to get people from the site? And so you can see here again, the sort of yellow line in the middle of the figure there is to reflect that contraflow movement along Maryland Avenue to help get traffic out of the area once events are over or people are just going home. They can travel up to North Avenue, where we'll have staffing proposed to help manage a left turn onto North Avenue, which does not exist today, and allow that traffic to access I-83 northbound near McMecken, or where Mount Royal intersects with Mount Royal. And then you can see sort of an orange, sort of pinkish sort of line there. That is also, we're going to have a lot of local visitors, obviously, not people seeking to access I-83. And so that also facilitates some of the local egress by allowing folks to go north on Maryland Avenue, make a right turn on North Avenue, and then make a subsequent right on St. Paul to access parts of the city to the south. So as part of the stakeholder engagement that's been facilitated over the last several weeks, we obviously heard from our stakeholders at the Joseph Meyer Hall Symphony Hall and talked about their event that's going to take place on Saturday night. They're actually going to start closures well in advance of their event. So that was something that we wanted to make note of and facilitate. So you can see here a number of different arrows, meaning indicating different things. They are going to have valet / VIP access on Park Avenue. You can see they're coming off of MLK Jr. Boulevard onto Park Avenue. You see a little blue star there. That's going to be a valet point. And then folks coming northbound up MLK Jr. Boulevard who are prepaid and not sort of considered the VIPs would park at that garage there in the southeast quadrant of MLK Jr. Boulevard and Biddle. So a lot of management of traffic that's going to have to happen in this area. Dignitaries and VIPs are going to be attending this event. And so we wanted to give particular focus to this area and make sure we incorporated a circulation plan that addressed some of their needs and concerns. One thing I also want to point out is that green arrow at the top of the left side of the slide. That is a request from BSO to provide parking for their staff and their security detail. We understand that there are potentially going to be some adjacent events happening there. The event stage, the main event stage is just adjacent to that location. So that's something we're still looking at and making sure we can facilitate that successfully. And then when we talk about the primary egress from the BSO event, we are really looking at utilizing Calvert Street. You can see the vertical line there in the center of the screen, sort of pink line there. We think Calvert Street is a very important egress corridor. The good news about Calvert Street is it gets you access to North Avenue. You could pretty much access any part north of that area via North Avenue, as well as getting access to I-83 northbound. And then what you can probably see in the lower left corner where you see the BSO there, you can see a little sort of red arrow there, that's to indicate how traffic going south of the event space will be able to exit the Meyerhoff site. And then I believe this is the last slide. One of the things that we heard in talking to our partners at the Lyric was about sort of having events, of course not happen at the same time at the Lyric, but having the patrons overlap in terms of people leaving and then people arriving for the next event. And so we really wanted to look at, okay, what are the options? And we came up with this, we evaluated a number of alternatives and came up with the idea of creating what we call a release valve, not to be used throughout the entire duration of the event, but used as needed to help facilitate an egress from the Lyric if there is significant delay and backup, particularly delay that might impact I-83. So you can see there sort of 4 little figures there at the intersection of Dolphin and Mount Royal, and that's just to indicate the staffing that would be needed. That's not a specific agency, but just the staffing that would be needed to help facilitate that and in collaboration with MTA. So that is it for the slides. Thank you, Councilman.
Thank you, Chief. We'll jump to we'll now jump to OEM.
Good morning. Thea King with the Office of Emergency Management for Operations. The Emergency Operations Center is a general location where decision makers for any agency that's involved, stakeholders, organizers for the event event in one room to have command over the event or to mitigate any issues that come about. Like this event, like all events, major events in the city, the EOC will be activated for Artscape. We normally activate an hour to 2 hours prior to the opening of the event, and we will go into an hour to 2 hours, or as long as needed until the footprint is empty. And DOT and BPD are happy with the footprint being empty and traffic going back to its normal state. For Artscape, the 22nd to the 24th, this is a public safety event, so BPD will have command. Inside the EOC will be BPD, Office of Emergency Management, the Fire Department, DOT, DPW, BOPA, MICA, and BSO. We'll have City Watch cameras up. We will be monitoring the event from the EOC. As stated earlier, there are other events going on. Friday, we do have a sold-out concert at CFG Arena for the Jonas Brothers, and we have a Ravens game Sunday versus the Colts at 1 p.m. that will also be going on doing Artscape. So we'll be monitoring all these events as well as Artscape to make sure everything goes well, and any issues that come up will be mitigated.
Thank you. BPD.
Thank you. Good morning. Erin Murphy, Director of Government Affairs. On behalf of the Police Department, we'd first like to thank the Mayor's Office and Councilman Costello for starting these series of meetings. It's been very helpful to collaborate. As Ms. King said, we are going to be part of the OEM Mobile Command Center. We also are going to bring our own mobile command center, which will be within the footprint. We also are going to be working with our partners of public safety, some private security, and we also plan on having bike units, people on patrol. As we stated, there's several events going on, but due to collaboration, BPD is well aware of them. Thank you.
Thank you. Colleagues, questions? Councilman Stokes?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First of all, I'm excited about this. I think Artscape probably started over in Charles North a long time ago, and it went to Mount Vernon. I'm glad it's a little longer, and it's not in July where you probably would roast, but it's in September. You just answered my question in terms of security. I don't know who could answer this, but can you give us the boundaries for the public to know exactly what those boundaries are going to be for Artscape for the public? Because, I mean, you gave us an outline. Is there somebody can talk about the boundaries of Artscape now?
So the festival, the extended festival starts at, so the street closures will start at 21st and Charles. 20th will be closed between St. Paul and Maryland. So from 21st down to Mount Royal, Charles Street will be closed. And then the original footprint, traditional footprint, is along Mount Vernon, extended to McMecken. Did I say Mount Vernon? Mount Royal, extended to McMecken. So McMecken to 21st Street is pretty much the footprint.
Thank you.
Councilwoman Ramos.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Chief Haynes, you all are experts at problem solving. This is a big puzzle that you're putting together here, and I appreciate all your efforts, and of course appreciate Mr. Chair for making sure everybody is talking to each other. My question is about working with like Waze and Google Maps and all of that for this event, because if they're not informed and all of that, then people will be not following the directions that you've outlined here. So is that something that DOT will be doing?
Yes, we will. We've done that in the past for other events and intend to do that in this case as well.
Great. And then the second question was, I'm a little worried about the bottom of the footprint here, where you're also going to be allowing for some car traffic over by the Lyric. Is that, if refresh my memory, is that just a certain time frame where there will be car traffic to get into the Lyric area, or that will be for the entire festival?
Yeah, that one area, that sort of opening of a single lane right next to the Lyric, is intended to allow for folks with mobility challenges, small children, to get access to the Lyric relatively easily. Those who are going to park in the Fitzgerald, for example, do have to come across Oliver. There will be staff staged at Oliver in Maryland, but still, I mean, you think of the traffic and possibly the congestion in that area, it does help to put someone with mobility challenges closer to the entrance. And so
Great.
in that stakeholder engagement that we did with them, it was really just sort of listening to that concern and finding a way to accommodate that, but then also ensuring that we're consistent with Complete Streets, that we leave the bike facility open and that we preserve the remaining space for pedestrians. There aren't going to be any exhibits or setups in that immediate area, and so that is going to be an entire lane that's going to be open for pedestrian traffic as well. The key is managing the conflict, making sure it's well-staffed, making sure that there's clear delineation and separation from the different modes, and that's what we're in the process of formalizing now.
That was going to be my follow-up in terms of the staffing, because that seems like that's going to be a tricky intersection. Well, it's all going to be a little tricky, but making sure that we've got the right staffing. I'm sure you're working with the sheriff and BPD and basically any other resources that are out there to make this happen.
Yeah, absolutely. Reaching out to everyone who could be involved.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Madam Vice President.
No real question, but just excited that the Artscape is picked up and is going to be happening. I have friends all over the country, and they always talk about Artscape. And just most recently, just within my district, even though the boundaries of this does really not affect my district, people in all areas and neighborhoods are just excited that this is going to happen. So I know that you have a lot of this, you're not really reinventing the wheel, you're just bringing back and following instructions and just extending that footprint. So really appreciate your hard work on this, and thank you so much.
Thank you. Colleagues, any other questions? Chief, can you talk a bit about the variable message boards plan that you've put together that we've shared a draft of with our institutional stakeholders? And just kind of explain what that is.
Sure, yeah. So the variable message boards are sort of those electronic message boards that you'll see, thank you, that provide messaging in terms of detouring, closures, things of that nature. Our goal is to get those out a week in advance to provide advance information regarding the upcoming events and also temper expectations about delay and closures, and then pivot just prior to the event to then talk about the active closures and the active detours that are in place. And so we've identified all our PCMS locations. We have identified a resource gap where we're looking at for additional resources to get additional PCMS, everything through the procurement process, to rent additional PCMS, reaching out to some of our partners to get additional resources in terms of electronic message boards. The good news is we're still 6 weeks away. And so a lot of the early planning that we've done in order to get prepared for this allows us to identify those resource gaps and then, obviously, have that addressed. I have a sort of a, you can kind of see, I'll just kind of hold this up. This sort of reflects sort of and it's two-sided, by the way. This sort of reflects the intense effort that's gone into identifying the appropriate messaging and then making sure that, we have a comprehensive plan to inform the public about what is happening when.
Thank you. So in layman's terms, each of those modifications that you talked about in the presentation, those are each somehow represented on that spreadsheet as some type of variable message board signing that will go up to inform motorists and pedestrians of those changes, correct?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things we wanted to be clear about is that, we don't want to be in a position of constantly changing the messaging, going back and forth. And that confuses people. You see one message, and then an hour later, you see a different message. So coming up with messages that are specific but general enough that they can sustain through a significant duration of the event. And so, yeah, they do represent a transition from 7 days prior to the event and then the 2 days during the event. Things are going to be different on Saturday than they're going to be on Sunday. And so we will look at opportunities to change the messaging on Sunday because we won't have the confluence of all the events happening as intensively as they're going to happen on Saturday.
Thank you. Nina, can we bring up the presentation, the first one that was up, the Artscape one? I know Tanya and Todd and their teams put a lot of work into that. I feel like I may have stolen their thunder at the beginning of the hearing. Tanya and Todd, if you could give about 5 minutes just to run through this, kind of the what's new and exciting about this year's Artscape, just from a programming perspective.
Yeah.
And some of the locations.
Absolutely. So a lot of this we have talked about. This first slide represents just the overall weekend. So it identifies when we start to set up for vendors, when the main stage act starts to perform at 7 o'clock. Kelly Rowland will come on at 8:30. It also identifies when the Jonas Brothers start to perform, the festival hours, sort of lays out what's happening on Saturday. Nile Rodgers, as everyone knows, is our main act on Saturday. He performs at that. Nile Rodgers and Chic will perform at 1 o'clock on Saturday. And we've made pretty clear to the public, the main stage that's in Mount Vernon will shut down at 3 o'clock to accommodate the BSO Gala that's happening that evening, as well as the comedy acts that are happening at the Lyric. And just to piggyback off of what Councilman Ramos had asked, just to make clear, that footprint around the Lyric and the BSO is really a pedestrian walkthrough. So it really is going to be an open space for people to sort of mingle and sort of get to come and go where they need to be. And then Sunday, just identifying, and I should say the add-on in Station North, we're calling North of North. And we have a stage called North of North Stage. And Angelo Moore will be performing on Saturday evening with his band, Dr. Mad Vibes. And what else to call out? I think that sort of hits all of those touch points on Saturday, the weekend at a glance. Next slide. This sort of breaks out the music stages, where they're located, the main stage in its traditional footprint, the North of North stage. We have a Station North stage, which is now at Maryland and Lafayette, and we have a stage on Moses Street, a small local performance stage on Moses Street and Mount Royal. Next slide. I'm going to let Todd break out with all of the activities happening on over the weekend, but if you want to give that a shot, sure.
Yeah, one thing about Artscape, I am so proud of how much is going to be going on. From the Motor House up on North Avenue, the Central Baltimore Partnership is having an arts festival inside the garage on Charles Street. We have, again, the Student Film Festival Showcase at the Parkway Theater, which is great to have that reopen. We have vendors all along Charles Street. That's where the real main artist hub is, on the Charles Street Bridge, and we will remember that from years past. We have a comedy show in that area as well at the Improv. We have Project Artscape, a fashion show off Charles Street as well, which will feature up-and-coming and developed and established fashion designers. We have Gamescape at Joe's Squared. We have public art scattered throughout the entire festival. That is one thing we're really going to notice. Because we've made some concessions to our partners because of the busy weekend, that Mount Royal between the law school and the Lyric will only be present with public art. There will be no vendor tents to interfere with the Lyric and the BSO Gala. We are going to utilize the Barnes & Noble space that had been empty for 6 years to have our artist market in it. So there'll be 38 artists in there, which I think is a great way to reinvigorate a space that needs to be exposed again. We have a stage up by Micah's Parents' Weekend at Mosier Street. We also are displaying the Sondheim semi-finalists at the Micah Center as well. So that's another unique spot for artists to showcase their work.
And I can talk about Charles North.
Yeah, and Charles North.
Yeah, and so north of North, Charles North, we are doing some sustainable projects that we are going to have social impact to the community that will be there for the residents to enjoy after the festival is over. So we're activating what we're calling Artscape Park, which will be a small pocket park on a vacant lot at the corner of North and the corner of Charles and 20th. We're doing an extended mural project on the auto repair shop, which is also at the corner of 20th and Charles, which is actually, the artist is working on that, started today. We'll have a public installation, or outdoor gallery with Derek Adams and Aaron Douglas. And we're just really excited to be putting artists to work on these big mural projects. And we're gonna have a huge asphalt art project at the corner at the 6-lane crosswalk at North and Charles. And we're doing some utility boxes as well, so we're super excited about that.
And then one unique thing to close out the festival this year is we partner with the BSO, and we will have a free concert for everyone at the BSO. You have to register, but it'll be the same concert that the gala invitees saw the night before. So how wonderful is that the public gets to enjoy that special event?
Next slide. And here is the footprint. And I'm not going to try to read those little, but we're breaking it out in different zones. So each zone is sort of coordinated in a different color. So when this is sort of inside baseball, running logistics, day of event, we can say we're in zone 1 or zone 2 or zone 3. And we'll have a digital interactive map on the website for festival goers as we get closer to the festival.
Thank you, Tanya. When do you anticipate the interactive map going live?
That will, September 1st.
September 1st, great. And Tanya, I know you've been heading up efforts in terms of a communications plan that we've talked about in our past couple weekly meetings. Could you share a brief synopsis of that in terms of what you've been working on and how we've been communicating with communications contacts at each of our anchor institutions?
So we kick off our first sort of global communication meeting, and that's with our stakeholder group. So that's MICA, that's UB, that's the Lyric, that's the BSO, and certainly anyone else that's going to be impacted in that footprint, so that we can start to push out information, how to get to the festival, what they should bring, like what's available on the footprint, but also just so that people, public, understand. We're going to encourage everyone to take public transportation. We're going to push out a huge travel plan, a travel communication plan, but also just to inform everyone that all the same messaging, that we're all pushing out the same messaging, along with our sponsor, WJZ.
Thank you. Chief Haynes, as you're aware, each year in Bolton Hill, which is residential permit parking, or RPP Area 3, a special set of signs are installed in advance of the event because of the RPP regulations in Area 3 in Bolton Hill only apply Monday through Friday. So there are additional restrictions that are put in place from Friday through Sunday. My understanding is that DOT has the signs and is ready to do that and install the week of. Can you confirm that?
Yes, that is correct. We have those signs, and we will be installing those prior to the event.
Excellent. And if you could please keep me updated on the schedule for installation.
Will do.
Thank you. Councilman Stokes?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm glad to hear, Mr. Chair, that you pulled this group together, because I've been getting some emails, and I'm glad that now everybody in the room understanding the process. My question is, Old Goucher, Charles Village, they have RPP parking. Have y'all had conversation with the community in terms of this whole new layout? Because it's really going to affect where they live and where they park also.
We've done some work with Central Baltimore Partnership, but we have not been in touch with the Old Goucher community. I'll make sure that we do that.
Well, I can make sure I can give you Old Goucher and my colleague, Charles Village, because they need to know what's going on also. So we'll make sure we get that information to you. And they do have, parking under the parking authority also, so they need some signage also. So Chief, can you make sure myself and my colleague, Councilman Odette Ramos, get the signs that you're gonna be putting out so we can let our constituents know also?
Yeah, we'll certainly look into that and follow up with each of you with that information.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, may I
Please.
speak? Councilman Stokes as well, we'll make sure that our Director of Neighborhoods, make sure that we reach out to the community partners as well, so that they are providing an update as well. Thank you.
And Tanya, for the list of stakeholders on the comms plan, I think we had Eric Souza from Midtown Community
Midtown.
Benefits District. If not, yep, thank you so much. So as we've discussed in these internal meetings on Fridays, we've been working collectively to get the maintenance of traffic plan in place. Chief Haynes and his team, you all have made an incredible amount of progress in terms of the various events that you're juggling. And as you mentioned to me in a previous conversation, this is essentially a very large work site, right? That's how it's being treated, and you're trying to make sure that traffic can flow, vehicular and pedestrians and cycles and everything, and that people are safe. And I think you guys have made an incredible amount of progress towards ensuring that happens. One of the things that you've been very clear with us on during these weekly meetings is that for an event of this magnitude, those traffic modification plans would not be finalized until about a month out. So we're still about 6 weeks out, and just wanted to hear if we're still on track to kind of meet that milestone.
Yeah, we're still on track. There's a lot of work that we have to do this week in particular. And, once we hit that sort of final milestone, we'll continue to reassess, and we'll use that extra time we have to keep talking and keep reassessing and making sure that we have a solid plan.
Excellent. And this has been a moving plan each and every step of the way. So we've had minor tweaks each week in an effort to be responsive to our institutional stakeholders. So I want to thank you and the team at DOT for your flexibility in addressing those concerns. And I understand that DOT has already given a great deal of thought with respect to the staffing needs for traffic operations, and we're moving in a positive direction on that.
Yeah, we've identified the number of staff we would need. So now we're looking at identifying which agencies, including DOT, will support those different staffing locations.
Great, great. And then BPD, as I've mentioned during these meetings, as we start to wind down the traffic modification plan based on the footprint, obviously there is a public safety presence. BPD is the lead agency on that. I know our friends at OEM will be helping to coordinate. I just want to note one item, that there's crowd control and then there's maintenance of traffic. And I understand that BPD may be supporting the maintenance of traffic effort as DOT, finalizes their staffing needs for that. And just want to make sure that BPD is going to be prepared starting this Friday to start to provide an assessment of what's needed on both the crowd control item as well as the traffic maintenance item.
Yes, BPD is aware, and BPD is having side conversations also with DOT. So I know that there's been a lot of meetings going on, but yes, we will be prepared.
Great, great, excellent. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Please.
sorry.
Oh.
Good morning, everyone. Lindsey Jackson. Just wanted to add to that with DOT and with BPD, we're also looking, we already spoke to the Sheriff's Department, already spoke to city schools, DPW, and we're looking for an outside contractor as well to help with traffic.
Thank you, and Mr. Jackson, I just wanted to thank you for your leadership throughout this process. I know you've been helping to coordinate a lot of the public safety resources and other logistics through the mayor's office, so I want to thank you for your contributions to this. Colleagues, any other questions for our agencies? One last item I want to note, one of the things that we've discussed internally as a group is trying to identify a weekend for Artscape for next year with the goal of getting that completed before Artscape goes off this year. So what that means is hopefully by September 22nd, we will have identified a date. I know there are a multitude of considerations that need to be taken into consideration, like other venues, whether it's baseball or football. Those schedules are not yet out for next year. Other entertainment venues. Can Tanya and Todd, can you give a brief update on where we're at in terms of working through that, not asking for any specific dates or anything?
No, I think it would really make the public and all of us feel very comfortable to have a date. And so we have begun the conversations with all the stakeholders, specifically those ones right in the corridor, to identify an appropriate date that has minimal impact on the organizations, but still allows the festival to go off. So we're exploring all dates from September to the traditional July date. So we will be back in touch and float the ideas around.
Great, great, thank you. Chief of Staff James, do you have anything else to add on behalf of the administration before we close out?
Yes, sir. First of all, I want to thank you, Chairman, for your collaboration and the opportunity for Artscape to serve as the footprint, for Artscape to serve as the archetype of how we should be working collaboratively with our partners, but also with the City Council so that they are well informed. Again, we heard you when you all said that you all want to be a part of the process and more importantly, want to be kept up to date as much as possible. And so again, I want to thank you for your leadership during this time and more importantly, working with the Mayor's administration to convene all of the partners that we have here today. Again, thank you.
Thank you, and the same goes to you. Appreciate your partnership on this and your leadership as well. It's been a long road. I'm very thankful that we have Tanya and Todd in the positions that they're currently in. As I've said privately, and I will say publicly, I don't think we would be having these conversations if we had the caliber of leaders in Tanya and Todd in place 6, 8, 10 months ago. So you two have really scrambled to help get this on the right track, and I think we all appreciate that, and also appreciate our partner institutions, MICA, UB, the Lyric, and BSO, as well as our community groups, Midtown Community Benefits District, Mount Vernon, Bolton Hill, other neighborhoods, Charles Village, and Goucher, which will be a part of the process, because frankly, their contributions, I think, have helped to make this a better event for everyone. It's an incredibly robust set of programming which will be occurring that weekend, and I think that everyone in Baltimore City can be proud of. So with that, we are going to go into recess now. We have our next weekly meeting with our stakeholders on Friday. Councilman Stokes and Councilwoman Ramos, if you could please send an email to just Marvin and I with only one point of contact from the appropriate neighborhood groups so that we can get them looped in the conversation, and we will go from there. Anyone else have anything for the good of the order? All right, thank you all. We're now in recess.